Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party and my buddy Rhett. Oh man, she's quiet right now. That's wild. Usually she beeps right as I say that. Um, I did threaten her in the last video. We did a video on the voice, and I was like, if you want to do the 3GS one, you need to uh, you need to quiet down, and she quieted it down. Anyways, we spent a lot of time on unit tests. Unit testing, I think, pretty much all of April was all unit tests. So like 27 videos, 27 hours probably of just pure writing unit tests. I do feel a lot like I understand things better. I don't know if it was a good idea, but we are. That's what we're doing. So there's two more. I'm still in the getting started branch. There's two more things I want to get working in before I will officially sort of retire that branch, merge it in, and start a new branch. And the what I want to get done. So the two things are is I would like to have like sort of a hamburger menu or some kind of menu, three dots like this, where you click it and you add these, and then you can mouse over, and it's got like another thing where you can delete it. So you can manually add it instead of just having the nine jump up. Um, One thing we do know that we learned as part of this process is you can't have more than 16. That is a browser limitation. So, I guess, um, that's something that we'll add in the UI. Like if you try to add a 17th, it'll give you a little message. Hey, you can't you can't add more than 16. And then maybe in the future, the browsers will decide they can add more. Who knows? There's just no telling what the future will bring with that. But I'm not going to worry about that. That is not what I'm going to work on next. So what I want to work on next is auto resizing, and basically I want to be able to do this and then see right now if I do that and I reload, we will get a new layout, but I want it to automatically happen. And so one of the sort of things that came from spending so much time on unit tests is I'm pretty darn familiar with this architecture now. Um, that was a good side effect. For some reason, my cat has decided she wants a lot of attention at the moment. Um, but And so I was kind of thinking of how to do where I should put things, and I guess so. Every once in a while, I'll see something that looks like 3JS out there in the world or on TV or something like that. And I'd say the two places that really have bounced out at me is like it appears. I don't really go to nightclubs and bars, but it appears that from watching TV that at night, a lot of times at nightclubs and bars, they'll have sort of like big um, mono, big LCD sort of displays that and they'll have like 3JS or 3D kind of things just sort of floating around and stuff in there, maybe cubes and stuff. They're usually pretty darn rudimentary, there's nothing particularly um, impressive. There's probably like some sort of tool that does that. And that tool probably is not like Windows based. It's probably, or it may be Windows based, but it probably does. It's not browser based. It probably doesn't have like browser events and things like that. And then the other place that I see it quite often is like on billboards and things like that. Sometimes you'll drive by like one of those billboards that have like advertisements on it, or sometimes outside of like schools, they'll have like a big fancy like display, or at like football games and stuff, and you'll see 3D things on there from time to time. And my suspicion is those are not browser based too. It wouldn't surprise me if they are browser based, but there's no telling. But so it seems like this resize thing is going to be a browser specific API type thing. And so I was like, man, so where should that go? And kind of one of the goals of all this stuff to um, is to sort of like make it really easy on your future self to figure out where to put code. And so I was kind of thinking through things, and it's just like, what? That should probably go in utilities, and that should probably be called platform. And I cannot tell you how many times I've seen the word platform in Angular things and been like, what the heck? You know, what is the other platform? Blah, 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 blah. And the nice benefit of that would be that if I had anything that is browser specific, any code, like, so if we go into the scene service, right? Like, there's absolutely nothing in here that is tied to the browser behavior. If they made a version of ThreeJS that runs in another platform, there's nothing that I've done in here that would prevent this set of code from running in there. So I think I want to isolate all of the code that runs in the that is specific to a browser. I want to isolate it completely, right? That I think that's the wise choice. So, and it seems like utilities is a great place to put that. You know, so, and I could just imagine, like, if I have a service in utilities and as part of its constructor, it just interacts with it just sets Windows event handlers. Then in the future, if someone were to say, hey, can we port this over to some, you know, thing that they show on billboards, how hard would that be? Like, hopefully, I think I believe if that whatever that thing supports, if it supports 3JS, it would. I could probably just write some code in the platform utility service to sort of either disable or modify based on the new platform that I'm trying to support. Huh? It's just a thought. So anyways, I'm going to put that code in utilities, and then in the app I'm going to inject that, and then I believe it will automatically run the. I wonder if I should do it in the constructor or if I should create a function that we call, and then so then the control of, so if there was ever a modification that we wanted to do for the platform, all of that would be in the app, which I do think would be a little bit easier to sort of wrap your mind around. So I don't think it's going to be in there. But anyway, so the first step is to go into my packages. So I'm going to say Control P and packages. And anytime I kind of start a new thing up, I almost always right click on this and close it, close everything else, and then close others, because these tabs can just stack up. And so I want to create a new service, and I want it to be in my utilities. I think it makes sense to be in the utilities. And oh, and you know what? Before we do that, let's kind of look in here in this ThreeJS visualization and sort of just ponder. Looks like maybe we lost our map. Well, maybe that link just doesn't work quite right anyway. So we have our ThreeJS visualization. We have all our showtime stuff. Let's make this a little smaller. We have animations, ThreeJS utilities. Okay, so obviously this is incomplete, but let's go ahead and do this. And inside, it's not a sibling, a child, we're going to add platform, because that's what we're going to work on now. Let's see what else is in the utilities. We also have recyclable sequences and hashes. So let's go ahead and add siblings to this. Sequences. So we're going to call them sequences. I don't think we need. And then we'll do this, and we'll say add a sibling. It's been a while since I've used this, and it's pretty crazy how fast I came up to speed on that hash. So I think that is cool. So this is interesting. I have Showtime, 3GS. Okay, yeah. I don't really know what the difference between this and this are. Let's go look at. So this is our services. Inside of here we have Showtime, we have 3JS. Now I think maybe I was doing that based on the interfaces. So we have our visualization. Okay, now that's different. So Showtime has visualizations. So you have animation 3JS. It kind of seems like visualization should be like a sibling. And then when you look over here, services, utilities. So we got animations, ST, 3. Okay, so now if you open ST, yeah, see, I think something's wrong with this. I feel like the renderer goes up here, but Showtime also has a renderer, right? So we have 3, which has a renderer, and then we have Showtime, which has a renderer. So I feel like that shouldn't be there. And let's just do this. Visualization. And I think it's good to like sort of just mentally flex your brain about sort of the architecture of your application. Now, it kind of like seems like all like we should have like components and then services and then like utilities should be under there. I don't know. But let's leave it at that. I guess we don't have to save. I guess it automatically saves. So I wonder what does this do? Oh, to export. Oh, that'd be interesting to see what it exports to, but I'm not quite. I can't help myself. Export. Okay, so this is to draw it. Okay, so it's not quite what I was thinking. I was thinking it was like sort of like an XML or a JSON export that would let you import it later, like, or make some changes locally or something, and then you could re-upload it. Anyways, that's pretty cool. I think that was a good use of time. So now let's go ahead and make our new service, and this is going to be called platform, and we're going to use the ng command. Now I probably, if you watch my videos, I've said this 100 times, but if this is like a standalone video, I always set up my scripts, my CLI commands in my package.json. There's a couple reasons. One is I find this to be easier, right? Like than trying to remember. I do this quite regularly, but not enough for it to become sort of muscle memory and all that. So it's easier to remember to do it this way, but it also ensures that I don't use like some random globally installed CLI, that it uses the CLI and all the stuff, all of the packages and everything for this project. So ng, and I want to create a service, and I want it to be in my services thing, and I want it to be called, I want it to be in utilities, and I want it to be called platform. And then I like to always imagine what's going to happen. So I'm expecting this to show up inside of my app, inside of services, and inside of utilities. And so I'm going to save this. I'm going to go to my other shell that I have been pretty much using exclusively for testing. And one of the things I love about this new thing is I think I'll actually be able to create a cool Cypress use case, where Cypress will sort of set certain sizes and kind of expect things to be in certain locations, and it'll pass and all that. And what will be really nice about that is then I will be able to, like in the future, when I'm messing around with code and I'm changing things, I'll be able to run my Cypress test and make sure that I didn't break the resizing. And or if I've done something that has like some sort of impact on resizing that I just didn't think about, it'll present while I'm watching my Cypress script run. So anyways, that is going to be cool. So npm run platform. And then take a second, look back over here, expect it to become a sibling with some services and stuff right there. Boom. And it's actually going to be interesting to see how we unit test this platform service, because there's only one. Well, I'm probably going to just create a function to set up events or something like that, and then that function will just set up a handler that runs the function that calculates where these things are supposed to be and saves that. And then independently, the thing that actually updates the drawing will update accordingly. So really all this thing should ever do is cause the calculation to update. And I'll show why, but basically as a prequel, the thing is when I resize, when I do this, like a ton of events get called. And so and there's kind of like two things. One is to calculate stuff, which no problem. Like the system can handle that. And then the other is to update the screen. And I've completely separated those two concerns. So I can update the memory with whatever as fast as I want, and there shouldn't be any sort of impact. But if I was going to try to update the screen as well, that would be a problem. But it only tries to update the screen once every 60 times per second. So once every 60th of a second. So anyways, I want to see this platform here. And it's kind of weird because what I'm doing is I'm talking out loud. Like what I just did, I probably do in about 3 to 4 seconds. But the thoughts that are happening in my head are probably what happens in those 3 to 4 seconds. And I've probably been talking for like 5 minutes. So like 5 minutes of sort of this articulable information and all that happens lightning fast in my brain when I do this for, like, if I'm writing code heads down thinking. So the amount of information that's flying in there is just insane, right? Like that's something I didn't realize, just how high the information flow that's happening inside the brain. So then when someone's like, "Oh, okay, so explain what you did here," and it's like you're trying to get me to resolve hundreds of thousands of thoughts into to go those into a sentence or two. And so, and it's just something that you have to practice, and then that's basically what I'm doing right now is practicing. So now we want to see our platform show up here. So now in theory, like if we were doing, and I'm not, test-driven development, I would now write a test that is going to check to see whether my event was set. And I wouldn't have the vaguest idea. I'm actually going to need a lot of help from ChatGPT on setting up unit tests for events. But we do know that I want a function, and I want it to be called set. I think it should just be very generic, right? So set events that basically handles all event setting, and it's not going to return anything, and it's not going to accept anything. And like I said, I've been having this internal argument, well, it's been external here, on whether it should be in the constructor and just happen sort of magically behind the scenes, or whether it should be in this function that we call specifically from the app, so that if this ever does have to be updated, there's some sort of a trail of breadcrumbs to to follow, so that, because I'm never going to remember this in the future. So console.log set resize. Resize event. All right, so basically we have that. Now we want to inject this into our top app. And that's where we're always going to want it. We really don't want to be trying to set events in these lower apps. We definitely don't want it. We don't want it to be happening over and over and over again. We just want it to happen once, right when the console is available. Now, the thing is I would imagine that the browser events are available to interact with before, they're already available before the app is ever even done. When the constructor of the app happens, it should be fine. I don't know that for sure, but so I'm going to go into the component and I'm going to go to the very top, not the viz, but the very top component, which is not in components because it's sitting up here, and maybe it should be in components. But anyways, so we're going to inject it. And then in our constructor, we're going to use it. So basically what we want to do is this thing is going to call, I think it's called platform service. And it's of type platform service. I don't know if this is right. Looks like it is. And then I think it just literally just brought it in for us. And we already have the inject function imported and service. So now if we go over to this, what we will see is that in our app component, that it just automatically brought this in. And I guess this is a generic lib. Animation, visualization. I guess I don't ever use the utility. I guess I should utility libs. Let's do that. I like how I did that. Good job, past Marty. Utility libs. Okay, so now in our constructor, I think setup animation. So this is the thing that sets up our drawing, right? So let's go in there real quick. I'm curious. See, this is probably platform specific too, this request animation frame. So that kind of blows up my whole theory, because I doubt if in one of those bars, all those LEDs or the request animation frame probably doesn't exist. They probably have something along that line, but who knows? So this was called, what is this service called? Oh, and we do this right in the app. Oh no, so we do this right in the top app. So I guess that kind of makes, yeah. And see, this is where you start getting kind of going down a path of shit that just doesn't matter, right? Like I love the concept of, I'm trying to build this so that in the future, if you have some device or some other thing that isn't browser specific, but then like literally in my entire career, I've never seen that use case ever come up. I mean, it's a beautiful use case to think about and all that, but I think I've already screwed this up. Um, and I just don't see. I like the fact that I thought about these things and all that. I don't think this will ever be a use case that comes up, and I don't see the value in now refactoring this code for some concept and some idea that is just literally only going to exist in my brain. So I think I love that idea. I still like this. I still like this because it does give me a place to do all events. Um, but and I guess I should put like a little note in here. Let's do this. Note request animation frame is browser specific. That's vague. But like if it ever mattered to me, if I was like, oh, I'm looking for any browser code that's broken, that doing it, I probably would end up doing a search for browser, and that would probably help me, probably save me some time. And this thing that's probably never ever going to happen. Um, so I think we want to set up the animation loop before we set up the events. So now this dot platform service dot set events. All right. So here I believe what's going to happen now when I hit save is I'll see that console log. So I'm going to hit save there, and then I'm going to come over here, go to my services, go into utilities, go to my platform service, and say, yeah, inspect, and then console. So that happens. Okay, so now I don't know when, like, at this point, I really don't know. I guess I can inject the, let's see, so inside of our services, we have an animation service. I don't think the animation service has anything to do with, oh, yeah, so I don't think we want to do anything in here. Maybe this is what update properties for animation, and then we send it to the animation update for animation. Let's see where this gets called from, because this gets called with the actual meshes. Okay, so update mesh so this gets called with a mesh. What I'm looking for is the function that says, hey, all meshes need to be, well, oh, so that's different. Okay, so this is for the individual items in here. We're looking for the frames. So this is very specific to the actual inside of that, but not to the parents of all. So there's kind of two concepts here. There's like what's happening to the items within a scene, and then there's what happens to the scene as a whole. And animations is all about what happens to the items within the scene. So we want to understand what's happening to, let's come back over here into our app.css or app.ts. Animate visualizations set up. See this, I think. Animate visualizations. Set up DOM visualizations. Set up visualization. See, I think, okay, so this set up visualizations. So this will go through each. Okay, so that creates them. That's viz components set initialized. Oh, animate visualizations. Okay, so this. Okay, so that actually does animations on each one of them. So I cannot remember how we do this, but I'm guessing it has something to do with visualizations. Oh, and let's close that up. Close that up. And yeah, see, that's its own, that is its own thing up here. So I think this guy is that, and I bet you visualization service. So this will get all the visualization IDs, which I don't even think I'm using because we had to write, I think we had to write close. Set, calculate positions, which I believe that gets called by, okay. Calculate positions. I think this is the guy that is going. So it's kind of funny. I put a bunch of code in, a bunch of comments in here to say what it can't do, but I didn't really say what this is for. So calculate. So let's search on that. Okay, so I call that from here. Okay, so that is the only place I'm calling it right now is from within here. So there's nothing outside. I believe what I can do is calculate this function, and it will reposition everything. And so that'll be the first time I did that. And it doesn't, I don't think it's going to hurt anything to inject this visualization service and then call it directly. So basically, I want to call this calculate positions anytime the screen changes. And this isn't doing anything that's going to cause the redraws to get triggered or anything like that. So this is the whole enchilada is right there. So platform services. So we want basically to inject visualization services. And gosh, this is the part where, like, I don't know. Sometimes you can inject things, sometimes you can't. And I'm sure it is so effing clear when you can and can't, but for some reason I can't wrap my mind around it. I don't think this is going to be a problem, but I do know that we need to bring in the inject function. So let's go ahead and do that. And I guess this is kind of, for me personally, is kind of like a pretty good, like I don't quite understand all these, but then I feel like, oh man, when the time comes to write unit tests for this stuff, I'll get a much better understanding. Okay, so like, let's get this working, then write our unit tests, and this will all make a lot more sense. I don't know. It's the first time I ever had that thought. I believe. I think that's the first time I did it. So this is called visualization service. So we want to get a copy of the visualization service in here. And I feel pretty confident that it is, okay, because I've been told a million times, this is a singleton. This is going to be the same version of that. I also feel a lot more confident of that reality because when we were doing unit tests, we actually tested that with the sequence generator. So inject. Visualization service. And I hit save and see if shit breaks or not. Because sometimes there'll be like a weird redundancy. And it'll be like, yeah, the way you injected this is not legal. And then I don't know that it definitely shows if I don't know if it presents itself until after. So this is not what we want to do. I just want to test that it works, that nothing breaks or anything. Okay, so now we only want this calculate position to happen when the browser changes. So I don't know how to do that right off the top. I'm sure I could figure that out, but I'm also sure that the fastest way to figure it out will be to ask ChatGPT. An Angular service, and I want to create a resize. Are you creating a resize or add a resize? Resize event handler. Okay, so is there a way for me to add an event handler to the browser browser resize event directly. Windows on resize. See, I felt that. Like, why? Why would I want all that other code? Okay, so it's saying that here I could just add. I'm going to say this. I guess what I need to do, I think I want to add like an events initialized so that it doesn't get called more than once. False. If not events initialized. So that should only happen one time, and then equals true. I don't know if that's necessary or not, but I don't want this to get set more than once. And then window. I don't know if this is going to work. I hope. And do I need to like do this? I don't think so. I don't. This is something that you would definitely need to do if like you were doing it in like calling it from components and stuff. But like the only time I want the event, this thing destroyed, is when you close the tab. So I don't know. I may end up. I don't know if I can do this. And since it's a void, I think I could just do that. And I actually don't even want to do it this way because I want to test something before. So let's just do this. I think I can just give it a function. Console.log resize. see if it compiles. And when I do stuff like this, I actually, and it's probably not necessary anymore. This is probably just a vestigial habit. But if I'm doing something like where I'm doing like in service injections that I'm not necessarily comfortable with and things like that, I will tend to just start it and restart from scratch. Because in the early days of Angular, a lot of times you would have code that didn't, that would break only on a restart. But while you were live coding, it would work. And the sooner you get to that, the better. Inspect. Okay, so we're going to our console, and what I'm hoping to see is like little, yeah, see how that, it's actually not coming in too fast. Historically, I have seen where, like, just doing this, there might be five, like in a second, you might get like 500. But something is like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, it is happening really. No? That's interesting. Okay, so that is happening the way I expect. I don't want it to, I only want it to update when it updates. I don't want it to update when this event happens. I want it to update whenever that thing, but I do want it to fix the stuff. So I want it to update the values in memory. I want to do the calculations. I do not want it to update the actual screen as part of the resize event. So theoretically, I can do this. And I feel like it kind of sets me up in the future a little better if I do it this way, if I call it from within this function. But basically what I'm saying is don't attach this event if I've already initialized this thing. Only attach this event if I haven't. It's not saying don't run this. It should always run it anytime the event happens, but it shouldn't ever attach it. It should only attach it one time. And that's a lot to think about. It's a lot more, it may be a lot more than you think it is. Okay, so in theory, now, if I resize this, I don't know why nothing happened. Okay, let's try this. Log calculate. Let's just see if it's calling the calculate. It is weird to me that we didn't even get an error. Like it just didn't. Well, so it did actually it did end up redrawing, because that is definitely. Oh, that's because it redrew. So it is calling the calculate, but it's not actually calculating. Okay, so we should not be able to do much before we get there. Okay, we're there. We're stepping in. We're saying calculate this position, and does this exist? Yeah, it exists. And do we have visualizations? Yes, we have visualizations. And let's see there. 0, 200, 400. Right, so we would want to see the next one be like 600, but is the width changing? I'm curious. Viewport width is 754. Oh, I bet you our viewport width it isn't changing. Because, so I think anytime we call this, we're going to have to calculate the viewport width. Now the problem is that may be expensive to determine the viewport width every time. Maybe that's something we don't. Let's see. have heard a term called janky, which means that the browser is unresponsive because of forced redraws. The reason I'm asking this is because this is a term that I heard that they used to use regularly like 10 years ago. So like that term has likely changed. Feel sluggish or choppy. Okay, so yeah, so that's exactly like, so it's like so and that's debouncing. I don't want to have to do that. So does requesting, does getting the viewport with trigger a redraw? No. Okay, so that's good. See, there's sometimes, but it can if the browser thinks the layout is dirty. Oh, the reflow is what you want. No, does not trigger a redraw, but it can trigger a reflow layout calculation if the browser thinks the layout is dirty. If no layout change, like DOM, but if you change the DOM, e.g. set styles, add classes. Okay, so we are not doing any of that. Must update. Okay, so window inner width, I think, is what we want, not the. So it looks like what it's saying is oh, wait. Okay, so we're not making any of these changes, but it looks like we are at risk of that. So window inner width. Okay, so I think we want to set that, and if everything gets weird, the problem is like you have all these different things. So like let's say we click a button, but so this is resize specific. If this gets called, I don't know. It'll be interesting. We're gonna learn. We may learn. So it looks like our problem is in. So let's go ahead and get rid of our. Hit run. Get rid of this guy. Hit this, and it looks like we need to come in here and go. Set calculation. Right before we call this, we want to get the viewport width. Or we want to set the viewport width. This dot viewport width. Now, how do we set it to begin with? Viewport width. Okay, so yeah, see, so this was calculated when the service was created, but we need to update that. But we probably don't, and it should just check the memory, because as you're resizing, I guess it is technically feasible that we might have some styles. Okay, so we might end up adding like debouncing or yeah, probably like debouncing to that other thing. Debouncing slash, it's debounce, and debounce is like, hey, saying, okay, only do something a tenth of a second or a hundredth of a second after the last one. And then there's also throttling. So we might have to add throttle debounce. So I was really hoping to avoid that. Possible reflow. See, I think the reflow can happen when you're doing that because of a big cause of that will be like this bar here will cause that. And I think if you get it just right, you might end up with it sort of bouncing back and forth between the two of them. We'll see. Now that I've had issues with that in the past, I didn't really understand it, but I think that might explain some of the things I've seen in the past. Nope, it didn't. It still didn't do it. I hate it when a plan doesn't come together. So let's do this. So is it? Yeah, it's currently wrong, right? It should be 4 rows of 3, not. Oh, it is 4 rows of 3. Is there another? Oh no, there's 16. It should be 4. There's some over here, right? I don't know. Now I'm very confused. Yeah, 16. We have 12 that we can see. So there's some that we can't. There's one set that we can't see over there. Okay. I guess what we need to do is console log that width. I mean, I thought I had this down. Okay, so width is 697. It still should. Oh, and it did. Oh, because we redrew. See, this is what it should go to. Now, when we get wide enough, what we're looking to see is if. So it is doing it, but it's not redrawing them. See, because if we reload here, it's 4, and then, like we know for a fact, at this point it should have gone to the next line. And then step in. Okay, so let's look at our visualizations here. So it's not like, oh no, that's right. Actually, this is right, because it is actually showing 0 to the visualization. Yeah, there should be like 1 by itself down here, and 3 at 800. Yeah, so these are not being redrawn by in the request animation frame. It's not redrawn it. So we do know that this is being calculated properly. So I think we are done with this guy. And I don't think I actually have any debuggers. So let's go to our down here. Oh, I bet you the hash needs to be updated. Okay, so I can't remember how we did that. Let's go over here into the app. And basically we set up the animate set up DOM visualizations. See how like when it comes back over here, it actually goes and fixes things. And we have like these timeouts. And we call setup visualizations. And then it goes through that, create visualization, set up as initialized, animate visualizations. Well, we're still in the app right now, aren't we? Yeah. Okay, so that's inside the viz component. Set up visualizations, that's in here. Those create visualizations, animations. I'm so confused. Okay, so visualization. I don't think, okay, so I think we decided animations is not doing this. Visualization service. What draws the position? That's this. So did I need to call reset hash as well? Where does reset hash get called? Yeah, I think I need to call reset hash. Create, so calculate positions, and then we call the reset hash with viz width and viz height. And then it takes this viz width and viz height and it turns it into a hash for reset hash value. This visualization hash value is equal to hash. Yeah, this is weird. Okay, so basically this hash was like if one of these was to change, it would call there. Set calculate position. And then calculate positions, that's that. And then create visualization. See, it calls the calculate positions and then viz height. Almost felt like, okay. Get visualization ID, create visualizations, calculate position. Okay, so let's go back into request animation. Let's search for request animation frame. And let's go in here. And it goes to this animations visualizations layout. Let's go to that one. So we might need the animation service as well. And what this will do is it checks to see if the hash value is the same, and if it's not, then it so it's only going to run this if the visualization's hash value has changed. And so that's probably why it's not running, because the hash value isn't changing. And so I think, okay, so let me hit Alt back. We have that. So it's weird. Okay, so let's go back to, okay, so the way the hash value, let's go back to that thing. Go to definition. This gets, so over here we reset it and we send it the visualization's width and height. and then oh, and then it goes through. Does it? Why does it even use this viz width and height? Okay, yeah. So that was confusing as heck because I don't think we even use this. Oh yeah, yes we do right here. No, we don't. That's the vizzes. Yeah. Why? Why did I do that? And so now it's going to be upset because up here. Okay, so let's just make sure that doesn't break anything. I do think I want to call the res, but the problem is it's not just. Does it use the? Oh, okay. It is weird. Okay, so it does use the viz width and height, but it probably should also use the. And I don't know why I'm using the viz width and height. Let's see. I guess. Well, oh, okay. This is weird. Okay, so the hash uses the passed in width and height. That should just probably be a width and a height. It shouldn't be visual. Because for me, and this probably should be this should probably be the viewport width and height, not the visualization width and height. So, but I'm going to sort of call it width and height. Height. And then change this to width and height. So the problem is it's not accounting for the viewport width and height change. So everything should still work. Kind of the fact that everything is like that makes me think I'm in the debugger somewhere. I am. And then, so we need to reset the hash too from our new service. So, and I don't, let's try this, error. Let's go to the app. It's going to take forever to navigate back. Platform service, set events. I like that name. I think that's a good idea. Okay, so calculate position. Go to definition. This is too wide. And then, oh man, this is kind of a bummer because I think that recess hash is really expensive. And width. I guess we should check that before we try to calculate. We should see if the width, all we really care about is the width. Because this is probably very expensive. Probably doesn't even matter, but So basically what's happening here is we are going to check we're going to include the viewport width and height as things to calculate when we reset the hash. But we're only going to do that if it's changed. And I think it'd be interesting to see if it's worth, maybe it's not worth, like maybe we should not do the inner, but we should do the outer because of this thing, you know, I don't know. We'll see. But oh my gosh. Now what? Console log. It's so funny because every time I work on something like this at work, you know, like in my current job, I haven't really had to do anything like this, but in jobs like this always takes me so much more time than I'm expecting, and now I'm starting to get a clue as to why. So the changes is happening. Oh, look. I am the king of the world. It is working. I don't know. I don't know why putting the console log there made it work. Let's get rid of this and see if that was just like a timing issue. Maybe it hadn't finished building yet and I was moving stuff around. That's nice. That's real nice. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get rid of any of the crazy console logs that are out here. Let's look at our changes. I have a feeling writing the unit test for this is going to be tricky, and I bet you writing the end-to-end test is going to be tricky. But maybe not. The end-to-end test might be pretty simple. I just don't know. I have zero experience with that. Actually, I'm very much. That's one of the things I'm really looking forward to. Excited about that. I don't know why I wasn't way more excited about that than I was. I think it was just like sort of like, I don't know, I had this expectation that it was going to be very smooth to get that working, and it isn't. It wasn't. And so I have a lot to think about, a lot to sort of just digest mentally. But I do like it. I think that's awesome. And, you know, it isn't janky at all, right? Like there's no jank. It works really well. So the hashing thing didn't end up being an issue. It's kind of weird because I thought the hash thing was a promise, so I don't understand why I didn't have to. Here, let's go in this view. I think it was in here. No, so all we do is calculate positions here. And I put reset hash. Okay, so I don't need this one anymore. Oh, okay. So it only does this if this changes. So in this case, so it probably wouldn't reset the hash, and it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. And in both cases, resetting the hash should return a promise. And it is weird to me. I thought that this wouldn't run if the promise isn't like if you don't listen to the promise. So let me put that in Chat GPT. I think that might have been what kind of has me at odds. Is I think I may have found like a total misunderstanding that I have. Okay, so I have this code. Okay. Oh, this is it. If you ever do something like this, interesting. So was under the impression that reset hash will only execute if I resolve the promise. You're very close to the truth. Let's get super clear. Yeah, everything up to the then. What? Up to the then when you, so when you call reset hash, these parts immediately. For the promise resolves. Oh, okay. So these two will run. Ah, so the hash string does get set. Oh. Okay, so that's weird. Then that part only execute at this part is delayed. Okay, so this has to get hash string then. Oh, okay. So it resolves itself. Okay. So basically, so not basically, so it resolves itself. Must be resolved. But if, all right, so let's see everybody that calls reset hash. Because it's saying that until something resolves it, it's not going to run this code, so it will never update the visualization. Okay, so this is in the spec. There's no then. I see I don't have any then. So this is how I call it. You are not waiting for it. Keeps running it later. The promise of site gets resolved. Then, oh, okay. Okay. So then, oh, okay. I think it's starting to come together for me. So I have another. So value. It uses the visualization hash value. Should. Oh, okay. Now it's starting to come together, I think. Redraw. Reposition. The visualizations. Yeah, so that's fine. So it's saying, hey, there could be a time between when it redraws where it redraws wrong. So that's good to know. And then, okay, so what I was struggling with. Why the visualization hash value was being updated. You know, even though the then we've already done it then. Yeah, okay. So that is a major level up for yours truly. So I was very confused why I didn't have to say reset hash dot then to get this to run. But the reason is because this dot then was happening here. So that was causing this code to run without having to do that. Now I could determine whether it had run or not, like done some sort of event or whatever based on that. But since I didn't really care, it runs and it just does its thing. Now, you've hit your limit. So then, yeah, so basically, so before when I said so basically it resolves. Basically resolves itself. That is something I did not exactly see. So before when I said so basically it resolves itself, it's like, kind of, but you're wrong. But now that I've given it a lot more context, it understands that my original so it resolves itself does make more sense. And it is pretty crazy that this large language AI can figure that out. So, yeah. So we got that working. So tomorrow, I guess we'll be doing unit tests. I guess it'd be kind of fun to run the. I don't think I've ever said those words in my life. It'd be kind of fun to run the unit tests and see where we're at. See if we're still at 100%. I don't think so. I think we will have lost some ground, and then we will need to run that. Let's see, animation service. Not animation service, platform service spec. Yeah, we'll need to run set events directly from within this, and I think we will. I don't know if we'll get this. Oh no, we'll have to run it. Yeah, we'll have to run it. It should work. Yeah, it should set that. Might be better off pulling this into its own function and calling it directly. So all tests pass, but the true question here is, what is our coverage? Yep, we got a problem. I got the problem. Oh, wow, so that never calls. No, so yeah, so we ended up losing some ground here. And then I'm guessing if I F this one, which I believe we can just do that and it'll automatically update itself. Hey, Snoopy. Our old dog that I swear was this close. This close. The Grim Reaper was that close to getting him. Is doing so much better now. The cold weather really, really has a negative effect on him. So did it rerun? I don't think it did. Yeah, so why didn't you rerun? Let's run that again. Oh, see, our utilities was actually already hurting, and it was a platform service because it never runs that. So we'll probably need to pull this into its own function to be able to run it. And then that's easy enough. And then yeah, we'll get 100%. But if I do the F, it probably won't because the set events never gets called. So we'll have to call that. So that should be pretty straightforward. And then yeah, we have a little bit of work to do on unit tests. That'll be tomorrow. And then we have a lot of work to do on the end-to-end test, but we'll finally have a really good end-to-end test. So that was a long video, a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I definitely learned a lot. I definitely added a new sort of knowledge point to my promises toolkit. And I sort of understand that little iteration of like, yes, a promise has to resolve itself, but a function that returns a promise could actually resolve that promise within itself, which is a weird little thing. So anyways, I hope everyone has a wonderful Sunday. I'm gonna go mow some lawn, take my dogs on a run, and then we'll run some errands tonight. Happy coding, everybody. And you know what, I should have my and then we can actually, oh yeah, baby. Do 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 do. Don't no. Look at that. Resizes. That is so nice. Oh. Is it? I wonder why. Let's see. What happened? Yeah, I guess that's as good as it gets. Probably make it a little bit more narrow. That's nice. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.